and Girlamo.
Thank you all. I'm going to be talking tonight about my experiences in the U.S. Navy and the impact it had on my life, but I want to start out by acknowledging there's a number of our members who are here and some who aren't, who are veterans or actively serving in the military, and I just want to acknowledge that sacrifice. Thank you for your service. I know how important it is, and I am grateful for your dedication to serving our country, so thank you for that. So looking back at my life, I can honestly say that joining the Navy was not out of some noble, patriotic calling. For me, it was the best escape plan I could come up with at the time. I grew up in very difficult circumstances caused by my father. He was not a good dude. He was a chronic alcoholic. He did drugs. He lied to everybody about everything, including his family. He did things that we didn't even know he was doing at the time. He caused an awful lot of financial stress and chaos for our family. And when the heat got a little too close to him, he made up a story and said, I've got a job in Atlantic City. We lived in Ocean City, New Jersey at the time. And I'll be gone for 4 days. And he left and he never came back. Never called, never came back. And I only saw him a couple of times before he died from that point on. And then my mom sort of found out what was going on. He owed money across town, borrowed money, told him elaborate stories about how he's going to pay off and about how he had a boat and could take him out on his boat. All of it was a lie. He hadn't paid the rent in a year and a half, and we were living in an apartment by the pure grace of our landlord. My mom didn't have any money. She didn't work. And so it was a difficult time for us. I was 13 years old, going on 14 at the time, and I was the oldest of the three brothers. And so she confided in me. She told me about the problems and the issues. A lot for a 13-year-old kid. And it affected me. And it affected me in ways that I still feel even to this day. My response to that was to go to work as much as I could at 13, 14, 15, 16, and try to help out as much as I could. I was driven by that. From the lessons I learned from my dad, I wanted to work, I wanted to make money. It's all I cared about at the time. And by high school, I was still doing that. But I was angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry at my father, especially angry at the situation that we were in. At that point, we'd moved to Connecticut to live with some family, which helped out for a while. And my response to all this stress and chaos was I became pretty rebellious. I didn't listen to anybody, didn't pay attention in school, barely passing high school. In fact, I graduated. There were 74 kids in my graduating class in rural Connecticut, and I think I graduated 69th out of 74. So it was that bad. It was that close to me not making it. I used to ditch school and go to work, ditch school and go drink beer at the falls, things like that. So I was not in a good place. So obviously from that backdrop, college was not really an option for me. I wasn't interested in it. I wouldn't have been accepted anyway. It's 1985 now, but when I graduated high school. And the problem was my mom. She was on my case all the time. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? We used to fight about it every single day. I was so tired of it. And I had literally no plan. I was going to work at this job I had making $4 an hour. That was the plan. And so one day, late in the school year, my senior year, this Navy recruiter shows up and makes this pitch to me. I didn't even listen to him. But I thought, oh, that's the plan. I can just sign this paper I'm not even going to read, go home and tell my mom that I got a plan, and she'll stop bugging me. And I'll have 6 months where I can just work and party and, it'll be good. I'm not even worried about boot camp. And that is what happened. My mom got off my back. She was glad I had a plan. Then came boot camp. Wow. I can honestly say that there is no experience like it on earth from my perspective. People tell you what it's going to be like before, people who know, but you don't really believe it. It doesn't really mean anything until you get there. And it got real fast and not in a good way. I remember my very first night there. We get in the middle of the night, they process us through the station. We get to lay down for an hour. And I wake up, it's 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that, and I sat up. And there were two guys in uniform by the side, and they were kind of talking softly to each other. And they saw me sit up and look at them. And this one guy, like, rushes me in a threatening and ostentatious manner and says, "Did I tell you to get up?" I'm like, and he says, "Are you dumb?" I said, "No." "That's no, sir. You are dumb. Lay the F back down." And that's how my Navy experience began. And for 2 months, it was like that. Screamed at. The physical duress is, I mean, even though I was 17 at the time and in pretty good shape, it was a struggle every single day. You had a double time on the campus, which means you run everywhere and don't let them catch you not running. Daily inspections, all kinds of rules you have to get used to. It was physically grueling. It was emotionally draining. It was a very, very difficult experience. I don't have time tonight to tell you all of the experiences and make it really feel like you're in boot camp, but I'll tell you about my two company commanders. So one was named Petty Officer Madden. I'll never forget this guy. He had these black eyes, black as the darkest sky you've ever seen, and he wore these glasses that magnified the eyes. And he had this way of getting right up in here and screaming at you. He's spitting on you, and you got to stand at attention and not look. And I mean, I was trembling. This guy like frightened the crap out of me. I am quite certain that when it comes my time to leave this earth, the last image I'm going to have is a Petty Officer Madden right here screaming at me, because that's how baked into my brain this is. And the other guy, Chief Smith, he also wore glasses, and he had this strange way of crinkling his nose and pushing the glasses up against his face like that. We used to make fun of him behind his back, of course. But this guy developed a very distinct dislike for me for whatever reason. And so he created this nickname for me that it's X-rated. I can't share it in a Toastmasters speech with all of you. Certainly not while it's being recorded. But we have inspection every day. They come around and they check you out. They tear your clothes apart. They make you dry shave. All, of course, they take you through all the nonsense. But he would come up to me and stand in front of me and say, "Girlamo, what are you?" And I had to say the nickname. "No, I can't hear you. Say that again." "I am a," and then by the end of it, I'm shouting this derogatory nickname to everybody. And the thing, he would laugh and laugh and laugh and then move on down the line, right? This guy did not like me, and it was completely mutual. So I made it through boot camp. Difficult experience, proud of making it through. I went off to my school to learn my designation. I was going to be an operations specialist, OS for short, and that works in a compartment of the ship called Combat Information Center, or CIC for short. And we would monitor radars for surface and air contacts, and we'd plot their course and speed and communicate to the bridge, and we would use the sonar to find subs. So that's what I learned, and that was my designation. And then I got my ship assignment. And I was assigned to the USS Alwyn, but the whole number was FF-1081. It was an anti-submarine warfare ship. And I was an OS on that ship, and I got on board that ship, and again, a whole different experience, again, like none other experience you can have. And again, I don't have time to fully make you feel that experience, but the boat was 460 feet long. It had 300 sailors and officers on board, extremely cramped quarters, no privacy whatsoever. You had, in the sleeping compartment, we had racks. So a rack is Navy talk for bed, and they were stacked 3 high. So the people on the bottom and middle bunks got stepped on while the guy tries to climb to the top bunk. If you're in the top rack, in rough seas, you got to tie yourself off so you're not asleep and fall out of the rack. And the racks are, 6 inches apart across this compartment. So you're sleeping right next to this dude, and you can hear everything, you can smell everything. There's very, very little personal storage space. You have to run everywhere on the ship. Hard physical work. And again, I was rebellious at that point still too. I was still angry. I pushed back. I didn't pay attention. I didn't work hard at my job. I tried to get out of everything. There's haircut rules in the Navy. Like short hair, high and tight. They would love this haircut right here, but I've had it for 25 years. Back then, I was not going to do this haircut. I had long hair as long as I could, go over my ears. I'd hide them from officers, and sometimes they would catch me. I'd get in a lot of trouble. I was pushing back, pushing back, pushing back. And this went on for 2 years. Now I'm 6 months away from my enlistment ending. I hated the ship, hated being on board, but something changed for me with about 6 months to go. I didn't really know what it was, but I started to care. I started to work hard. I became good at my job. I started to pay attention. I started to pay attention to how I dressed, because that's a big deal in the military. Pressed clothing, everything lined up, you got all your stuff on. It's a big deal. And people noticed. My supervisor started putting me in some leadership positions, and I started to be grateful for the experience, grateful for the skills I was learning. And they even started to think about re-enlisting, which my entire time at that point, I was never going to do that. But I started to think about it. And back then, it's 1988, and the bonus for a 6-month term to re-enlist was $16,000. And when you sign on, they give you a bag of cash for $8,000, and then they pay it out through the rest of your enlistment. So I thought seriously about that, but ultimately I decided not to. I got out because I had also developed a desire now to go back to school and try that again and go to college. And that's what I did well in college, and I graduated, and I've had a very successful career since that time. So for me, the Navy was a lifesaver, truly. I was headed down a really, really bad path, and it turned me around. I fought back against it. It took me a while to get there, but I got there. And I'm very, very grateful for the experience that the Navy gave me, the life skills it taught me, the motivation it gave me to live a good life and a successful life. And the other thing, too, that as I think back on that time now, all my jobs I've had since then, I've never been as proud of any job I've had as that one when I was 20 years old. It was a great source of pride to put on the navy blues, this ridiculous uniform with 13 buttons. I mean, it took you 10 minutes to go to the bathroom, right? The silly white hat. But I felt proud putting that uniform on and standing at events and ceremonies, or lining the rails of your ship as you come in to port from a 6 or 8 month deployment, staying there in your uniform and representing the country. I'm very, very grateful for the opportunity and very, very proud of that service. Thank you all.